Good morning. I'm going to take a walk out to the garden and show you a little bit of what's going on. Borrowed a lawnmower. It's unbelievable. It worked for a little while and now it's not working. Maybe the air filter. Really, what we should have been doing in the last, many decades, once upon a time, it was made in America with pride. We built things to last, and now everything's made to break, and that's very, very frustrating to say the least. All right, I'm going to talk about weed barriers and pros and cons to that. Some people are using the cloth, the landscape cloth. Other people are going with cardboard and that type of thing. And I'm going to tell you exactly why I don't. And especially after you're in a place for a few years, you really start to reap the benefits of not using a weed barrier. First of all, I like weeds. I think some of them are very pretty. And of course, we know they're medicinal if you know what you're doing. Secondly, in this extreme heat, they can serve as ground cover for the intense months. And thirdly, it is compost material to add back into the soil. And typically, most weeds and wildflowers don't need a lot of nutrients, so they're not sucking a whole lot out of the soil. And then if you're practicing, the all-natural way in compost tea, you're adding a lot back into the soil. So when I come into an overgrown space, I have my priorities. And my first priority is my second planting to weed around the root base, and only the root base, of the heavy feeders, cucumbers and squash and things like that. Secondly is the things that'll start to take off with growth that I've planted a little bit early, and when the cooler weather they really start to kick in and grow and multiply. I'll weed those areas, like the leeks and some of the onions and roots. Let's see. And then, this is what I really came here to talk about with the weed barriers, is you don't get the benefits of letting your plants drop their seed and the little volunteers. In the last video, I showed you guys the basil volunteers. And if there's a huge cluster, what I really like to do is let the biggest stay in their spot, and then I take all of the smaller ones and transplant those into different areas, or just spread them out in the same area if it's where I decide that I'm going to let it go. Texas hummingbird sage has gone to seed, and there's already volunteers. Knowing what your plants look like when they're sprouting is of utmost importance. The volunteers, like I said, they're always my favorite. It tells me life really wants to happen, and they're typically, strong and good little things. So I don't come in here with any type of tool. First off, I do all of the weeding very, very carefully by hand, and it gives me a chance to see exactly what's happening. That's a Texas hummingbird sage. And so is this. And we have basil, and here's the cress that I put in very early. Now, cress is a perennial, and none of them have sent out their seed stalks yet. And once that happens, of course, you just can't possibly collect all the seeds, and then there'll be lots of cress all over the place. There's another baby hummingbird sage. We have a sweet little friend right here. I love seeing the guys taking the break too when they're napping early in the morning or late in the evening. They're just exhausted. They work so hard. So there's all the weeds that I'm pulling from around the cress, hummingbird sage, the new squash that I put in, the tomato vines. That's my next thing. I'm going to take those out. So here I am weeding around the base of the mature and dried out basil plants. And there will be tons of volunteers here. Because we're in a warm area, there'll be volunteers now and in spring. And I've already figured out with that aquarium on the south side of the structure, right up against the building, I can get basil into that aquarium in a couple weeks, and it will blossom and do wonderfully up until November. And I check it on a regular basis, and as soon as I see that the chill's getting to it and the leaves, some of the leaves are getting damaged and black, then I go ahead and collect it all and make the pesto and freeze it. So I have it for the rest of the winter. All right, so that's my spiel on why no weed barriers. And, it's my approach. Not everybody is, on the same page. It's just how I like to do it. I like to see, things going to seed and then sprouting on their own. Like right here, that's arugula, believe it or not. And it had seed pods. And so all throughout this bed, there's going to be the arugula. When I collected the seeds from the ground cherries, of course I can't get every single seed out of the berries, so the scraps I purposely put back in the same area. So now I know when I see little volunteers here, what they're going to be. Lots of basil seed pods over there. That's going to be just absolutely insane with volunteers. All right, I'm going to get back to work for a couple hours. It's cooled down to the low 90s, and it actually does feel like a huge break in the temperature from 100s to 90s, and I'm going to enjoy it. But like I said, I'm still really looking forward towards fall. It's one of my favorite times to garden. Oh, I'm waiting on that. Watermelon doing good. All right, I've said goodbye like 3 times. This time I'm really going. Arrivederci.